Okay, so we're now going to try some factoring where the coefficient is not 1. So this is a trinomial coefficient. We call this the a value. We have ax squared plus bx plus c. And we want to factor this where the a value is not 1. So we have a 6 here. So the technique we're going to use is guess and check or rainbow method. Let's try guess and check. This could be faster if you practice a lot. So you could try 6x and 1x because 6 times 1 is 6, and then you'd have to toggle these 1 and 2 because 1 times 2 is 2-ish, so there'd have to be a negative sign here. But bottom line is, suppose you say -2 plus 1. If you do FOIL, first outside, inside, that's the key. This is -12x plus 1x is incorrect because we're trying to get a middle b value of -1, and that's not going to work. So let's try switching the minus and the plus. Let's try plus and minus. Right away we see that 6 times 2 is 12, minus 1 is 11. We're still so far away, so this is not a good approach. So let's try again. Instead of 6 and 1, why don't we try 3 and 2? So 3x times 2x is 6x squared. And we want to get 2, so let's try 2 and 1. So bottom line is, this is going to be, let's try negative and plus. This is -3 plus 4 is going to be a +1, so this is not right either. So instead of these signs, let's switch it up here. We know that one of these has to be negative because we want to get -2. -2 times 1 is -2. Now we have 3x minus 4x indeed is -1x. So yay, guess and check can be very fast, especially when the numbers are nice and low. And it's quite likely that instead of using the extreme values of 6 and 1, you could try to begin with a number somewhere in between and you might get a bit more lucky. Okay, so guess and check is a reasonable technique and can be very fast with a lot of practice and drills. But let's try a mentally relaxing method. It's called the rainbow method. We're going to multiply the numbers. 6 is the a value multiplied by -2 is the constant. So we're not going to write equal because this is just a trick. We're going to just rewrite the question as x squared minus x. 6 times -2 is -12. So we're going to pretend this is the question. And so we're going to factor this. When you factor this, this is just regular trinomial factoring. It's not that hard. What times what is -12 but has a sum of -1. Let's try 3 and 4. 3 times 4 is 12-ish. And we want to get -1, so let's put the negative here and put the positive here. So these multiply correctly to -12 and they add correctly to -1. And let's think about a story here. Pretend you are the number 6. You are the a value. So you are 6 and you are working at the bottom of the company. You're flipping burgers at McDonald's. And you want to be promoted to be the boss or the owner or the CEO. But the only way you can do so is if you simplify your life. So we're going to simplify. Instead of plus 3 over 6, we're going to write plus 1/2 because it's nice and simple. So this is just a trick. I'm not going to even bother writing equal signs. I'm just going to put an arrow here. Instead of minus 4 over 6, let's try 2/3. So we're simplifying our life. 4 over 6 becomes 2/3. We're being very efficient with our time, and we're being intelligently lazy. Now, our singular focus is to serve customers with a smile and be happy about our job because we know that we're being promoted now. Whatever remains in the denominator just gets promoted up here. And so the answer is, this now actually is equals to 2x plus 1, and 3x minus 2. So this here is called the rainbow method. Alright, let's try expanding and factoring here. We have 3 parts, and we recognize this is a binomial times a binomial. I recommend you leave the coefficient alone. So let's leave that alone. Let's put a huge bracket here and expand this out. Let's do first 1 times x is x. Let's try to be a bit more aggressive here. Outside is 1 times 3. Okay, so let's just write it down here. This is simply 3. And inside is going to be negative 2x times x is negative 2x squared. And finally, last, we have negative 2x times 3 is negative 6x. All right. So you can see that we have x and negative 6x becomes negative 5x. So let's finish this off by feeding the cat, feeding the dog, and feeding the bird. So the answer is going to be 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times negative 2x squared is negative 4x squared. And 2 times negative 5x is negative 10x. And it's a good idea to write the higher powers first. So negative 4x squared minus 10x plus 6 would be an answer. And let's factor. So before we try this headache factoring question, we can make it a lot easier by pulling out the greatest common factor. So let's pull out a negative 2. So negative 2. And so what we have here is 2x squared plus 5x minus 3, which is allowed. And by the way, when you see this question here, the original question, you could have also pulled out a negative 1 from this factor here. So we're gonna make, if you pull out a negative 1, the 2 becomes a negative 2. So let's rewrite this question as 2x minus 1, x plus 3. This is the goal. We want to get this as the factored form. So the 1 minus 2x, if you pull out a negative 1 from each term, becomes 2x minus 1. So this is a very good goal. And we're starting to get it over here. Okay, so the question is, can we factor this? And the numbers here are quite low. 2 and 3 are quite low. Let's just try to guess. Guessing can be a bit faster. So what we have is negative 2. We're going to just try to go for it. We have 2x times x is 2x squared. What times what is 3? We have some slim pickings. Let's just guess. Let's try 3 and 1. So we want negative 3. Now I notice here that the goal is positive 5. So let's just put a plus sign here and see if we get lucky. So we have negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. If you do FOIL, outside is going to be 6x minus 1x is the inside. Indeed, we factored it correctly, so we got lucky and that was pretty fast. Looks good to me. Okay, so this factoring question seems pretty tough. The number 10 is quite big. It can be 1 times 10, 2 times 5, who knows what. Let's, for the sake of relaxation, just try the rainbow method one more time. So it's going to be this number times this number, x squared minus 17x. I'm just copying this. 3 times 10 is 30. So 30 is a big number, but we can just very patiently work it out. X times x is x squared. What times what is 30? Let's just try to feel this perfect pair question. What times what is 30? 1 times 30. This is not a match made in heaven. You can see that when you add these, it's not even close to negative 17. What about 2 and 15? Does that seem right? 2 and 15 seems like a match made in heaven. Because 2 times 15 is 30, so let's try negative, negative. You know that 2 negatives make a positive, so it must be negative, negative. You can see that these multiply to be 30, but they add to be negative 17. So we found it pretty fast. And by the way, these questions can take a long time. You might have to guess 4 or 5 tries. But eventually you will systematically find the answer. You'll find the perfect pair match made in heaven. So the story goes, there used to be you, your jersey number used to be 3, and here you are at the bottom of the company, flipping burgers with a smile, and you are about to be promoted. But before being promoted, you must make sure your life is nice and simple. 2 divided by 3 looks pretty simple to me, so here you can be promoted right away. So this is going to be 3x minus 2, whereas here we need to simplify our life a little bit. 15 divided by 3 is 5. So you can see that indeed, if you want to factor, you can put an equal sign here on this step, not up here. So this here is a correct expression for the factored form of this trinomial. And now it's your turn to factor. Try factoring this trinomial where the coefficient is not 1. This one here have a flavor of expanding then factoring rather quickly, making sure to pull out the GCF. And question number 3, try factoring this harder trinomial which looks kind of big and ugly.